Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Learning is not attained by chance. It must be sought for with ardor and diligence. Warm greetings to one and all present here. Myself, Grishma P., Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce. Welcome you all to the second day of 7-day online National Faculty Development Program organized by PG Department of Commerce, Yuvakshetra Institute of Management Studies. To invoke the blessings of Almighty, let us offer a prayer. For the same, I invite Bhumika of First Beacon Finance. Bhumika, please.
നന്മയാകുന്ന കാന്തി കാണുവാൻ കണ്ണിനാകേണമേ. നല്ല വാക്കിൻ്റെ ശീലു ചൊല്ലുവാൻ നാവിനാകേണമേ. സ്നേഹമാകുന്ന ഗീതമോ എൻ്റെ കാതിനിണയാകണേ. സത്യമെന്നുള്ള ശീലമോടി ഞാൻ ശാന്തി അറിയണമേ. ആ ആ, ഭൂമിയമ്മ എന്നറിയുവാനുള്ള ബോധമുണ്ടാകണേ. ജീവജാലങ്ങളാകെയും ജന്മബന്ധുവായിടണേ. ജാതിഭേദങ്ങളെന്ന ശാപമോ ദൂരെ മറയണമേ. ലോകമൊന്നിന്ന് പാഠമെന്നുമെൻ മനസ്സിലെഴുതേണമേ. ആ ആ ആ.
Thank you, Bhumika. Now let me invite Dr. Manoj M., Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce, to address the gathering.
First of all, good evening all. We are on the second day of our national FDP, and the duty entrusted on me is to welcome you all. First of all, it's my pleasure to welcome our Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Gabriel Simon Thattil, Senior Professor, Head Department of Commerce, School of Business Management Legal Studies, University of Kerala, and also Dean, Faculty of Commerce, and Director of IQAC, University of Kerala. I welcome, sir. I heartily welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome Rev. Dr. Joseph Ulikal Poonal, Vice Principal, Yuvakshetra Institute of Management Studies, to this second day of FDP. Welcome, Father.
Thank you very much.
It's my privilege to welcome our dear HOD, Dr. Matilda Dani, to this session. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Manoj.
Now I welcome Ms. Sabida R., Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce, who is going to proposing the vote of thanks for this session. Welcome, ma'am. I also welcome all the participants who have joined for the session, today's session. Once again, I welcome you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I proudly welcome Reverend Dr. Joseph Olikal Konal, Vice Principal of Yuvakshetra Institute of Management Studies, to deliver the message. Welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Grishma. Good evening to all the dignitaries present on this virtual platform. Today's chief guest and resource person, Dr. Simon Thattil, Dr. Matilda Dani, HOD Department of Commerce, Dr. Manoj M, Ms. Sabida, dear teachers and aspirants of knowledge faculties, and my dear friends. I would like to congratulate the Department of Commerce for arranging this FDP in association with IQAC, Yuvakshetra Institute of Management Studies, and the Higher Education Department of Kerala. And we know education determines the future of a nation. Because when there is an educated society, a group of students, they contribute greatly for the development of the society, of the nation. And that's why we say education is the cornerstone of all the developments. And we know the education method itself is undergoing a drastic change. Formerly, we were learning everything from the teachers, but now, other than the teachers, there are different sources. But the teachers are always remarked in the first place. And even in the method of teaching, the current trend is whether the education is outcome based. That means it is not about learning certain things, it is not about learning certain methodology, it is not about learning different systems, but after learning all the systems and methods, what would be the outcome? Maybe a profession, maybe a better personality, or a person who is able to impart knowledge for others, whatever be. Today's education system is mainly being concentrated on the outcomes. So today we have a session based on the outcome-based education, and we have an expert, Simon Thattil, is with us. So I wish all the best to all the participants and wish that this session will help all of you in your teaching profession, because we have to go in tune with the current trends and the latest trend. Many other things, together with many other trends, the latest one is outcome-based education, which is highly demanding these days. So I wish all the best. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. The most awaited time has come. It's high time to invite Dr. Gabriel Simon Thattil to handle the session on relevance of outcome-based education. Sir, please.
Good evening, one and all.
Good evening, sir.
The principal of this institution, the HOD of the Department of Commerce, faculty members, uh, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed happy to be part of this program, the virtual platform on outcome-based education. I think I'm audible, all right?
Yes, sir.
So, thank you. So now that's something which is not entirely new, though it is part of the reforms agenda. And higher education in India is actually passing through a ocean of reforms as such. And the major reform is, as all of you know, we are into NEP 2020. And across the country, we are going into the 4-year EG program, where a learner after his 4th year can directly go into this PhD. So, and in this reform, both NEP as well as 4-year UG program, we are saying the curriculum content and delivery has to be outcome based. So before I start, let us try and understand fundamentally what is this concept all about, what actually we are trying to say when we're talking about outcomes. Now, as all of you know, India was at one point of time the hub for higher education in the globe. Today we talk about what is our status in the Times Higher Education Index of US ranking and things like that. And the best institutions of the world were out. But there was a time when we were among the best institutions in the world. Now I'm referring to the curriculum system, Takshashila, Nalanda, and all there. Education impact was absolutely. But what is happening then and what is happening now is basically the difference in numbers. Because we had very few institutions of higher learning, and we had very renowned gurus of higher learning who were actually mentoring or molding learners according to what they wanted them to be at the end of a particular program or at the attainment of a particular age. That was how it actually went. So outcomes were there. That's what I was trying to tell you. But then subsequently, when we started increasing ourselves in just in quantitative terms, numbers, we found it difficult to manage the system. That when a guru had 2 to 3 students or wards, the guru used to look into holistic education. The guru used to look into the passion, the personality, the health of the learner, in addition to what was actually called his knowledge needs. So it was not just training, it was not just imparting knowledge, but it went beyond to molding a person and making it what you want that person to be after the program. But as I said, numbers significantly increased. If you look at, say, our university, I'm talking about the University of Kerala, when we were formed in 1937, we were the 16th university in the country. So that point of time, there were only 16 universities in India. And University of Kerala was the 16th. But today in 2024, we have around 850 to 900 universities. We have 50,000 colleges. Higher education institutions number just increased like anything. In each state, we have 20 to 40 universities. And the number of students, number of programs, types of universities, nature of universities, all these things make the whole system very complex. Specifically in a country like ours where there was huge diversity. Because you have central university, state university, foreign university, private university, deemed to be university, subject-based university, Sanskrit university, health science, engineering, all kinds of universities, and so also all kinds of colleges. And numbers just growing like anything, and currently there is an outcry for quality. It's not sufficient that you have quantity. People start getting degrees and masters and PhDs, but they are not finding themselves to be fit for the purpose for which they were actually tuned. And then came the relevance of this outcome-based education. What you want the person to be after they finish their maybe graduation or master's or PhD and things like that. Now there's a bit of difference between what we actually say objective and then put it as outcome-based education in a taxonomy. Objectives were things which we used even before OBE came, outcome-based education came, and they were made in a very generic form or in a very descriptive form, which was not always measurable. Suppose I'm saying that I want to build a house, and I'm saying the objective is to have a beautiful house. Now, what is beautiful is relative.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Your voice is a little bit low. It is not clear. Can you just adjust the mic a little bit, sir?
yeah, yeah. It's audible now.
Yes, sir. Fine.
Oh, I just fine. Okay. So the objective there is you need a beautiful house to live, but this house that you're actually talking about is beauty for one and beauty for another is not the same. So when I'm putting it in terms of outcome, I will say that I need a house of this much square feet, this elevation, this description, this aesthetic size, this size bedroom, your washroom, all. So I'm making it measurable in terms of what you want at the end of your construction. When I'm saying I want beautiful roads to fly, I'm just saying beautiful roads. Then in that case, again, the problem is what do you mean by beautiful roads? What do you mean by wide roads? So I'm again putting it in terms of outcome. I'm saying 6-lane road with service road with this diameter, with this specifications, I'm making it an outcome. So outcome is something which is measurable and which you are saying you want a person or somebody to become at the end of something within a time frame. So that is what we're actually looking at outcome. And the need for this came when we started talking about our graduates not being ready for the profession, for the employment, for the self-employment, which actually they were tuned. And that is the context in which we are trying to look at outcome-based education. Now, just I just try to share my slide. You can just see whether you are able to see the slide and is it visible? Yeah, is the slide visible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir, it is visible.
So this is what we are trying to look at in terms of title and putting it as outcome-based education and innovation teaching. Oh, sorry. Just a minute, the slide is not changing. I'll just check and get back to you.
Okay, sir.
Hmm.
Dear participant, kindly mute your mic. Kindly mute your mic. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is visible.
Okay. And the slide was not changed. Now, basically, outcome-based education is trying to uh, enable you to see how we can make relevant and address disruptiveness. So it means to conceive innovative teaching learning models and to help both models for institution as well as individuals. And it is something which is enabling you to become futuristic because we are talking about what you want to achieve after a course or after a program. It is tech supported and it helps in deep comprehension of fundamentals. You are also trying to relate what you are doing to what is happening in the society, and it helps in analysis and application. Now, if you try to look at what actually this concept is trying to this slide of what slide.
Sir, you are not audible, sir. Sir, you are not audible.
Just a minute, because I'm finding it difficult to change the slide. The slide is not changing. Okay, I
Okay, sir.
have to escape from this and then come back. I don't know why. Okay. Anyway, now let's continue. So this is all what outcome-based education is all about. It is trying to make your learning more joyful and meaningful, where the students are given information on outcomes from learning. So in fact, they are trying to answer a question on why should they learn or what they will be able to do after a program. Now, when we say program, it means your uh, undergraduate or master's program. Say, for example, BA History is the program, BCom is the program, BBA is the program, MA History, MA Economics is the program, MSc is the program. So, each program, what you will be able to do, that is specified in advance. Now, remember, when we are saying outcome-based education, it's not something which is there only in the curriculum. If you look at this diagram, you'll understand there are outcomes in the beginning. That means when a student starts, suppose you're talking about a BCom program, somebody who is admitted to the BCom program, from the curriculum document, at the time of admission itself, they know what is or what are the outcomes that are expected from their BCom program. Then the content, that is the curriculum, the teaching learning that they do, the assignments, the seminars, the industrial visits, the projects, the internship, and the assessment, the final examinations that we do, they are all directed towards this outcome. That means at the beginning, certain outcomes have been specified. We want you to understand this thing, apply these things, or do these things at the end of the program. Then, according to your curriculum, the instruction and assessment are directed towards that. So, this is what we are actually talking about when we are trying to bring in what we conceive under the head outcome-based education. Now, look at the difference of content and the outcome. The content is actually addressing what am I learning. Suppose I say today we are discussing management by objectives. That content is addressing what are we learning. We are learning management by objectives. But outcome tells why am I learning that? Why should one learn outcome-based education? So it is the latter, the why, that makes the former, the what, more meaningful. That means if you know why are you learning, then what are you learning becomes more meaningful. And why are you learning is in order to achieve certain outcomes. And when that is clear, what are you learning becomes relatively easy in your context. Now, what are these outcomes? What the student should be able to do after after a course. Course stands for a particular paper in a program. Say, for example, accounting could be a course in BCom. Polymer chemistry could be a course in chemistry. Or you can have maybe Indian history to be a course in BA history. So after a course, what your student should be able to do, that is what is called as course outcome. And after each instructional unit in a course, what the student should be able to do is what we call course specific outcome. So when you achieve several CSO, you achieve a CO. And when you achieve the COs of all the courses, you achieve your PSO. And the learner becomes proficient in what they're supposed to be at the end of the program. OB features actually talk about decisions about curriculum driven by exit learning outcomes, which means when the child or when the learner has an exit after BCom or after BPA, they will become what they are supposed to be as talked about in the outcome-based education. And we create conditions that enable students to achieve those outcomes. The conditions in the sense through your curriculum, through the way you transact the curriculum, through the way you give your assignments, your examinations, all that are creating conditions to achieve those outcomes. So priority is actually to what are the ends, accomplishments, results, learning, purposes. That is what we are talking about in terms of outcome-based education. Significance is actually coming from the fact that it attempts to look at the fitness for practice. Now, the industry normally they keep complaining that somebody who has finished BCom does not have the required accounting skills. So, what is the outcome from a course in accounting? Or somebody who takes up entrepreneurship, does a course in entrepreneurship, is not fit to become an entrepreneur. Or somebody who does a course in security analysis and portfolio management is not turning out to be a good person who is competent enough to do or make sound investment decisions. So your course is not making you ready for practice. So that is what I actually talked about. It is ensuring that fitness for practice. You're saying that if somebody is doing a course in accounting, they should be fit for this. Somebody does a course in auditing, they should be fit for this. So likewise for all courses. Discussion-based approach on fundamental approach. You keep discussing, as was said in the message that introduced this program. Gone are the days where we're going to stuff our learners with information. So basically, we're trying to see that they are imparted with supportive, conducive systems where they can easily gather information on their own and get skilled by supportive inputs that we actually give them. Clarity on what education aims to achieve. So the focus, it gives focus for teaching and learning. You need to have an integration of curriculum. Your curriculum should be what should follow what. If I say that you have a course in accounting, you have a course in management, this should precede what and this should follow what. That is what we mean when you're talking about integration of curriculum. Accountability is very significant in OBE because you said your learner will be able to do something. And if that learner is not able to do that, the teacher and the instruction system or the institution is accountable for that. It also acts as a guide for assessment because your outcome book, your outcome plan is ready with you. And this is communicated to the learner, it is communicated to the society, it is communicated to all stakeholders. So the teacher knows for what the teacher is teaching. The person who gives assignment knows what is he trying to test through that assignment because the outcome from that assignment is known. The person who sets the question paper knows what they should ask as questions because they know what are going to be the outcomes that they're going to test. So it acts as a guide for the paper person who sets the question paper, the person who is using the instruction module, and also for
Excuse me, sir. Sir, I think it would be better without the headphone because the voice is still very low. Participants, I think they have the same issue.
I'll do. Am I audible now?
No, sir. Still, it is very feeble.
Because now I have removed the headphone actually. Maybe it's because of what do I do? Audible. I'll just log out and again.
Okay, sir. Yeah, fine.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
It's clear? Okay. Now I again try and share the screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now it's clear. I don't know how far you got what I said so far. It was not audible to you. Should I repeat something? Any of the slides earlier?
No, sir. You proceed with the present slide, sir.
Okay, so we were discussing the significance. Now, I have also given you what are the program outcomes, what are the course-specific outcomes, and what are the course outcomes also. So the one criticism that is often labeled against outcome-based education is that it is against education because it is straight jacketing and it is a straight frame because a professional degree or a degree program like your BCom or BBA or things like that, it cannot be tuned just like what is happening in an ITI or what is happening in maybe a pilot training institute and things like that. Because there, you're molding them to become a very straight, uh, a straight vocation. Say, for example, in an ITI, you want somebody to become a plumber or a fitter or an electrician, or you want somebody to become a pilot, where there is only one specific task to which you are tuning all your efforts. But this does not mean that in a graduate program you are not making them fit for your. There might not be one single task to which that you're actually tuning them. Say, for example, in a BCom program or a BBA program, you would be trying to make them good citizens. You at the same time you want them to become entrepreneurs, accountants, employers, move into higher education. So there could be multiple pathways but still outcomes are relevant, because if there are no outcomes, what happens is we take shelter under the disguised frame of what we call lack of accountability, and then we go on saying that okay, we did our education, but we are not sure what is going to happen to the learner. So learning outcome talks about making them fit to fly with their profession, their vocation, their employment, their entrepreneurship. That means there must be some outcome from what they are actually learning. Levels of outcome, I already said at the top, even before program specific outcomes, you have what is known as POs. It's otherwise called graduate attributes. So these are, I did not mention that earlier because they are not related to each program. They are related to what the institution graduates need to be. So we are only saying that, say, for example, in your college, every graduate need to have certain outcomes, whether they're coming from BSc or BA or different MAs or whatever. A graduate from your institution need to have certain things, and that it would generally be generic statements like problem solving, critical thinking, scientific temper, good citizenship, and things like that. So it's not related to a particular program, but it stands at the top as program outcomes. And you also strive to achieve this through the different programs that you have. Below that, you have your program specific outcomes. These are statements that describe what graduates of a specific program should be able to do. Maybe your BBA or BCom. So it's related. So one BCom will have a set of PSO, BBA will have another set of PSO, BA history will have another set of PSO, but POs will be common for all. And course outcomes, as I said earlier, represents what should come from each course, which we conventionally called as each paper in a particular program. Now, look at it. Your PO is broad and generic. Under that, you have your PSOs. And finally, you have your COs, which are very specific and measurable. So in each course that you do, if you do a particular course in accounting, what you want that person to do in accounting is specific and measurable. Like that, from each course, when they get it, your undergraduate program will show program specific outcomes. And on a broad frame, you would have attained your POs also. This is how the subsets actually go. PSO will be a subset of the PO, CO will be a subset of PO, and CSO will be a subset of CO. Now, I'm just giving you some examples for your understanding. Now, I'm just talking about a program. This is just a suggested example of what are the PSO for BCom program. I'm writing one PSO because each of the PSO will be addressing a particular course in that particular program. So in BCom, for PSO 1 is addressing something in accounting. And you're saying the outcome is the competence of a student to draw up or prepare financial statements. Then the second PSO actually is related to something like business studies or principles of management or types of business organization. And the objective is understanding the functioning of business organization. The third PSO is to analyze cost and financial statements. So these three, there will be any number of, there can be 10 to 15 PSOs that you have. And it talks about what the learner should be able to do. So after BCom, you should be able to draw financial statements. You should be able to understand the functioning of business organization. You should be able to analyze cost and financial statements. You should be able to prepare fund flow statements. You should be able to compare profitability, whatever you want. So PSOs go on that line. Then from that, you look at COs. Now, you look at the CO, this is the course outcome of one particular course in BCom. That is accounting. Now, you look at CO1. The first outcome from accounting is draw up with profit and loss account and balance sheet. So what we saw in the earlier slide in terms of drawing up financial statements is made more specific when it comes to CO, titling the paper as accounting and talking about drawing up profit and loss account and balance sheet. Then your second CO from accounting is analyze profit and loss account and balance sheet. The third CO is judging profitability, solvency, and liquidity, which means when the person has finished this course, when the learner has finished this course, that student will be able to judge profitability, solvency, and liquidity if a financial statement is given to that particular student. Then CO4, interpret financial ratios. So if the student sees different financial ratios, like current ratio, solvency ratio, the student must have the capability, the competence to interpret and tell you what the results actually are. Now, moving, this is another example for botany. Understand the nature and the fundamental concepts of plant systemic ecology, cell biology, physiology. Then PSO2, perform laboratory procedures as per standard protocols in the areas of whatever. This is for BSc Botany, the program specific outcomes for BSc Botany. Now, how do you actually design this? This is very important, because when you design your particular COs under the outcomes, we are using action words, which are verbs, because you want the learner to do something. And what the learner will do is, in fact, an action. So, action verbs are used, like understand, apply, create, analyze, build, design. So, we're using specific terms, and that term will say understand what, apply what, create what, analyze what. So that is made very clear. And it's not essential that you should use only these terms. You can use any other verb. But do not use words which will include like, such as, various, different. Because if you look at all these terms, even etc., it is not very specific. Students should do experiments like. Students should understand concepts of business like, which means it's not complete. It can be something like this or something like something else. It can be such as has got a same meaning. The different. You should know different protocols. You should know different theories. So when you put it in that particular form, how do you know what exactly you are trying to attain? And if you look at some of your old curriculum documents, you will see they're using students should understand experiment methods, 2, 3, and then they use etc. and even at times more than one etc. So it shows that the specificity of this is not maintained the way you actually want it. So make your COs, your course outcomes as detailed as possible with specificity and measurability, not too abstract or too specific. So that is how your COs should be designed. And this concept of outcome-based education is saying that every teacher, many of you would be teachers here, when you go for transacting your curriculum, you're saying that what I'm going to transact today, not just at the end of a particular course. That course outcome is broken into different modules and units. So each day what I transact has a relationship with what you want at the end of the day. Say, for example, when I'm saying interpret financial ratio, the day I start teaching financial ratios, I would convey the fact to my learners that when you finish this, you have to interpret, infer, judge. So with that intention or with this particular pathway in your mind, you go on preparing your outcomes and you use it in your class for joyful learning. And you know what you're trying to do because you're very clear about what you want at the end as an outcome. Now, there are a number of taxonomies and different methods for outcome-based education. But what is prescribed by the Kerala State Higher Education Council or by and large used even in MEP is the Bloom's taxonomy. And we are now using the Anderson's Bloom's taxonomy. The crux of what this taxonomy is actually saying is that anything and everything that we transact in the classroom under the outcome-based mode has 3 domains. All that we transact in the classroom has 3 domains. The first domain is cognition or cognitive domain, and it involves the ability to process information in a meaningful way. That means the moment you have transmitted information on a concept, on a school of thought, that moment information is meaningfully received by the person in his mind. That is cognition or cognitive domain. From there, if cognition has taken place, they move into the second domain, which is called affective domain. That means based on the information that has been internalized, they form their attitudes, they have their feelings that result from the influence of learning on the learner. And if that is successfully done, they move into the psychomotive domain, which is manipulative or physical skills or the ability to do. So, to put it in very simple terms, it just means this. It actually talks about using cognition to affective to psychomotive. That means from your thought to your heart and from your heart to your hands. So, cognition, for easy understanding, is just your mind. Affective is how you have internalized it. And based on that internalization, you have your feelings, your perceptions, your experience. And after having had this, your psychomotor is your hands. That means now you're ready to physically do what you're learning. Now, let me come to accounting, which we said earlier. When I'm talking about the process of preparing a financial statement, this is actually taught or transacted maybe through an illustration or through a problem solving. This must trigger thinking in the minds of the learner. Why this is being done in this form? Why this theory is saying like this? Same for MBO or same for motivation theory or whatever. So they start thinking. It should trigger thinking. It should ignite thinking in the learner. And when they start thinking, they get affected. Or only when they start thinking, they get affected. Because once I start thinking, I get a feeling, is this correct? Why did this person say like this? Peter Drucker talks about MBO. What is what he's saying in his definition correct? Or in one case, I find that it is not very correct. So let us take the example of motivation. We start with Maslow's need hierarchy. Then I'm coming to a conclusion that is this possible? Is it possible using the need hierarchy or using this particular theory to motivate somebody in an industry? And I'm getting affected by this is right or this is wrong. I'm getting confused. I'm having my own feelings. Then I look into realities. I look outside. That is where we said earlier, society-based learning. And I try and understand that this theory maybe at some point of time will be correct. At some point of time, it has a customized variant which is applied. At some point of time, it has a differential form in which it is applied. And I get to understand that. And now I have understood the various dimensions and facets of this theory. And I've understood that how it can be adopted or adapted to the situation in which I am. And now I am a motivator, psychomotor domain. I have the skills to motivate somebody. I have the skills to prepare and infer and read financial statements on my own. This is the third domain. Unfortunately, when we are not following this particular system, what is happening is we talk about a particular concept. You teach motivation, or you teach marketing, or you teach a financial statement, or you teach Indian history, or whatever. It is not triggering thinking in the person. That person does not think why this is happening, where this is happening, how this is happening, is it right or wrong? And as long as there is no thinking, for me, this is only a piece of material or a piece of information which I should learn by heart and reproduce in the examination. If it is only at that scale, obviously I am not affected. I am not confused. I have no doubt. I have no confusion. It is just something which I should learn by heart. I am not at all affected. I have no positive feelings, no negative feelings. I am not feeling hot or I'm feeling cold. I'm just static. I'm not affected. And when I'm not affected, obviously I don't have the physical skills or the manipulative skills or the psychomotor domain which is enabling me to do something. This is what Bloom's taxonomy is saying. Now, suppose you look at the content. Suppose you look at the content of anything, and in that content, you will find that basically what any institution teaches, basically it's all the same. Suppose I'm talking about MBA in a conventional, traditional university, and an MBA program in IIM. Suppose you are discussing a particular school of concept, exactly it is the same in both the places. But the difference comes from this fact. Suppose they study MBA there, they get affected and they are given number of cases. To become affected, they are given cases, they are given internship, they are given projects, they are given live studies, they are given illustrations. That makes them affected. That makes them move into the affective domain. And they understand that this is how it actually happens. And then finally they move to the psychomotor domain. So the learning is very simple. Outcome-based education is appealing to each teacher to journey from cognition to affective to psychomotive domain. Even when the Bloom's taxonomy that I'm telling you, it should trigger some thinking in you if you are actually keeping your ears and eyes open. And you get affected, is it right or wrong? That's why I said some people are criticizing this. They are saying that we cannot have an exact outcome from education. But if not exact, can we have some generic outcomes and attempt to get that? And how actually you attain your skills in doing what we actually learn. This is what is actually talked about when we are looking at Bloom's taxonomy. Now look at the cognition domain. Knowledge comes, understanding comes. We are trying to look a bit at application and evaluation. And then you're moving into affective domain. See, we receive, we respond, we value, we organize, we characterize. That means when you give a concept or a school of thought to somebody and you ask them whether they have doubt or whether they are confused or whether they have an alternate opinion, if they are saying no to any of things, that means they have not received, they are not responding, they are not valuing. So even if you have a doubt, it means that you are affected. Doubt, chaos, disturbed, all indicates that you're affected. And once you get affected, you look at the truth. Why somebody said something, why he defined in that form, why this experiment is giving this result, why that company is doing like that, why that industry is not responding in this way, you get affected. And then from that, you learn more. And that learning is what brings you to the psychomotor domain. You have your perception, you have your guided response, you adapt it, and finally you are capable to initiate. Somebody who has learned MBO now has the skill to set objectives. Somebody who learns motivation has the skill to motivate. Somebody who learns entrepreneurial traits tries to see whether some of those can be inculcated into their own personality. So that means the learner has learned and the learner has become a doer now, and they are fit, they are ready to take off into a career, into a profession, into higher learning, into better form. This is what outcome-based education is actually talking about. And the taxonomy, Anderson's taxonomy says that all that we teach and learn does not stand at the same level of cognition. Certain things we learn or certain things are taught basically just to remember. Certain things are taught not just to remember, but we need to understand the process. Certain other things are taught so that you're capable to apply that in a context. And so on, some for analysis, evaluation, and in certain things you also create something. In engineering, many things are taught so that you create structures. You create your own models. So you can move from this level. In your school education, fundamentally, by and large, many of the things are actually transacted at the level of remember. The outcome is remember. Suppose you teach your student that India attained independence in 1947. Very simple history. Now, why did you teach your student that India attained independence in 1947? There was only one outcome. Outcome is remember the date. But if you are trying to convey what role Gandhiji played in the Quit India movement, it's not sufficient that the learner remembers when the Quit India movement took place. The learner needs to understand the role that Gandhiji played in Quit India movement. So the outcome there is understand. So when we generally talk about in any conceptual thing that we learn, there could be one part which is remember and one part which is understand and apply. When I was talking about motivation, I might say that the Herzberg's two-factor theory or the McGregor's theory came in this year. So there, if you want that person to remember, you say that year is only for you to remember. But I need you to understand the two factors. So in each thing, there could be one part which is evaluate, understand, or even at higher levels to create. But we cannot at higher learning confine everything to remember. Now, although in many cases we say understand, when a student learns these things by heart, they might not move into cognition too effective. They just learn by heart. So what we are actually testing is remember. Even without understanding, a student can reproduce a definition. And that reproduction of the definition is only a guarantee that there has been an outcome on remember. We do not know whether the learner has understood or is competent to apply. So this is there in all theories. Suppose I'm asking I'm teaching the concept of customization. So they must understand how products can be customized. And the customization concept is very important there, rather than looking at just remembering what the definition says. So these levels actually, and you can use terms even other than this, but what you want the learner to do at the cognition level is actually talked about here. Now look at this taxonomy model, a very simple model. There could be different models. What you see in the first column is the column on cognition processes, whether they should remember or whether they should understand or whether they should apply, analyze, evaluate, create, or what all. That is this column. And the knowledge category talks about factual, conceptual, procedural, metacognitive, which means we are trying to chart out a taxonomy when we are saying, even if I am saying cognition, at the level of their cognition, they should remember. Then I'm saying, what should they remember? Should they remember a fact? When I said India got independence in 1947, McGregor's theory established, should they remember a fact or should they remember a concept? This is the concept of MBO. This is the concept of monetary policy. This is the concept of motivation. Or should they remember a procedure in scientific experiments, in different kinds of functions? They need to remember a procedure. Or should they remember metacognitive means a combination of facts to concepts to procedures to action? Same thing, understand. Should they understand the fact? Should they understand the concept? Should they understand the procedure? Same for applying. So you have a taxonomy which is struck off on this note, and you try to relate it with what this person should actually do. Now look at the tagging. This is with the example that I have shown earlier. I have just shown one specific outcome. Like that, you can have any number of 10, 20 outcomes for different courses. One of the outcomes, which was in accounting, was CO1, if you remember. The first outcome in accounting was to draw a profit and loss account and balance sheet. This was the course outcome. So we start basically, course outcomes are at the bottom. From accounting, you had in accounting a course 1, CO1, which was to draw a profit and loss and balance sheet. Now, what is this PSO? The PSO, the program specific outcome. This CO1 is related to PSO1. What was the PSO1? Draw financial statements. So drawing a profit and loss account and balance sheet is tagged to PSO1. So what is this tagging talking about? Like that, when you achieve all your course outcomes, it will get tagged to some program specific outcome. And when you achieve CO1, CO2, CO4, CO14, CO18, CO20, when you complete achieving all that, you would have achieved all your program specific outcomes. And the student is ready to come out with a BCom with the outcome which that person is supposed to do. Now look at it again, it is tagged with your cognition process of understanding. Cognition process is what we saw in the previous slide. Remember, understanding. This line that you saw is the cognition process. So in that, now what I have put here is, in the cognition level, they should understand you. In the knowledge category, what should they understand? They should understand the procedure for preparing. P stands for procedure. Procedure for preparing the profit and loss account and the balance sheet. And this talks about the distribution of work, sessions. T stands for teaching. This stands for the lecture. Sorry, T stands for tutorial, L stands for lecture, and P stands for practical. Which means I have given 4 as lectures. So now what does this mean? You look at just one CO. In a week, 4 hours I'll be spending for what? To convey how to draw profit and loss account and balance sheet, and the procedure will be transacted, understanding will be given, and PSO1 will be met. And this is done with all the COs, all your 14 or 18 COs which are there for a program. And when that is done, the program specific outcome is actually achieved. And this document is going to be a guide for assessment, because this document, the question paper knows, the question paper setter knows, how should I set the question? The person giving assignment knows, how should I give an assignment? Suppose you're asking for a practical, you're asking for an internship, you're asking for a seminar. It's all based on this tagged outcome. That means all your efforts, all your purpose, all your might, all your energy is directional towards what you want the learner to be at the end. This is the crux and essence of outcome-based education. So it is very simple in the sense that you're just identifying which all courses, what we conventionally call, which are the papers you want under a program, what you want the learner to do at the end of each course, and when they do those things at the end of the course, how will they attain what they're supposed to attain after the end of a program. Now, what are the challenges? This is basically the philosophy of outcome-based education. Now, if you want this to happen, what are the essential challenges? One challenge is continuous OBE assessment. Now, when we say outcome-based education, generally the first thing that we attempt is we want it to be there in the curriculum. So you roughly prepare a curriculum with content, and you say that each course has got some course outcomes, CO1, CO2, CO3. But as I showed in my initial slide, are these outcomes actually considered when you have your day-to-day lectures? When you give your assignments, when you give your seminars, when you give your test papers, formative assessments, summative assessment. So is it actually continuous? Or is it only something which you put in your curriculum and then look at it only after some time, or even hardly look at it at any point of time? So it should be continuous. That means anything and everything that you do in your teaching learning processes over the entire program should be directed in terms of the specified outcomes which have been actually listed. It should be purposive rather than ritualistic. Purposive in the sense that it should be carefully. When I'm saying something somebody should remember, it can be tested through an MCQ. India got independence in dash. Or dash is considered to be the man behind NBO. Because I'm just testing whether that person remembers. But if you don't want just, you are not going to be happy with just remembering, because remembering just guarantees that the person has information. It is not ensuring whether the person is able to understand and use that information in a context where that becomes a physical skill. If you want to test that, you should test, apply, analyze. So if you're saying apply, see how are you going to test whether the person is competent enough to apply, whether the person is competent enough to create. You also have to look into careful carrying out. Careful carrying out. That means all the processes from dawn to dusk are actually guided for this action. And it should be finally based on feedback. That means what you want the learner to be is actually judged in terms of the feedback that you get from the different stakeholders. There are people from the industry who feel that the learner is not fit for certain purpose. There are stakeholders in higher learning institutions who feel that some research skills are absent. There are some stakeholders of the government or the society who feel that these people are not turning out to be good citizenship. So what feedback you get from outsiders is actually incorporated or taken into account when you look for the specific skills that you want in the learner. So in fact, these things together is actually what counts into making outcome-based education into a totality. If you look at NEP, it says holistic education. It says education which is based on certain skills, and it also says education which is actually relating to the society. These three things happen when you're using outcome-based education. Because if they move from cognition to affective, that movement happens when they get linked into the society. If you're giving them physical skills to move into the psychomotor domain, that again makes them fit for a purpose, and they are not going to be they are not turning out to be redundant. They have with them a path which is open before them on how they need to actually carry out their task in future. So this is a concept of outcome-based education, which is so crucial in higher learning. So I don't know how far I could, what do you call, justify what I wanted to convey, but I think I have put in the basic inputs which are there for you in the fundamentals of this whole concept. Once again, I thank the opportunity. Now, I thank the college authorities for giving me this opportunity. Now, for anything which you would like to take from me, I'm open for. It need not always be questions. It can be supportive information, suggestions, criticism, whatever. Uh, the time now is for you to interact on the same. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for a fruitful session. Dear participants, if you have any queries, you may ask now.
No, was my sound audible to you? At least after removing the headphone, is it audible? You could all hear me or what?
Yes, sir, it
Yes,
was
sir.
audible. Sir, is the CEO tagging and CEO mapping both the same?
Pardon, CEO?
Mapping.
No, no. Tagging is the relationship. That means this CEO is related to which PO, PSO, not CO to PSO.
Oh,
How it is related.
oh,
Mapping is not just that, it also is something which is looking at attainment part. Yes, it is related in the sense that unless it is tagged, you cannot move into the second phase. So mapping talks about mapping it in terms of the relationship and going to see how it actually can be measured for attainment.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Now it's time to wind up the session with a vote of thanks. For that, I invite Ms. Reshma Yu, Assistant Professor, PG Department of Commerce, to propose the vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you, Grishma. I'm here with a heart full of gratitude for this remarkable opportunity to express my sincere appreciation. Intellectual growth should commence at birth and cease only at death. With these words of Albert Einstein, let me step into the duty vested upon me. First, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speaker, Dr. Gabriel Simon Thattil, Senior Professor, University of Kerala. The session was enlightening and thought-provoking indeed, and your expertise and passion had inspired us all to strive for excellence in education. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Now, let me thank our director, Reverend Dr. Matthew George Variel, for supporting this whole event. Thank you, Father. Next, I thank our principal, Dr. Tommy Anthony, for the guidance and inspiration. Thank you, sir. Now, I thank our beloved Vice Principal, Reverend Dr. Joseph Olikil for the inspiring and enlightening words. Thank you, Father. Next, I thank Ms. Shailaja Manan, IQAC Coordinator IMS, Professor Dr. Rajan Gurukul and Professor Dr. Rajan Varghese from Kerala State Higher Education Council for being an integral part of the event. Now, I thank our head of the department, Dr. Metada Dani, for her guidance and support. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Next,
you
I thank
very
the
much.
coordinators for their tireless support and endless effort for making this event a grand success. Now I thank Dr. Manoj M for the warmest welcome and Ms. Bhumika KS for her melodious prayer. Thank you both. I extend my deepest gratitude to each and every participant for gracing with us with your presence. Your support and participation have truly made this event a grand success. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Reshma ma'am. Thank you all and good night.